Hey church, I was reminded this week of a time in Jesus' ministry when he walked the earth that was so terrible, really. In those days, a Roman soldier walking along with all his heavy equipment and garb, his backpack, his weapons and things, he'd get tired carrying all that in the heat. And so if he saw a local Israeli person, he could say to them, hey, you've got to carry all of this stuff for a mile. I want you to stop what you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. Leave your family, stand by the road, whatever it takes. But for the next mile, you're mine. And that meant at the end of that mile, after he takes that heavy equipment down a mile, and he'd find the next guy to go another mile. At the end of that, now you got to walk a mile back to get to your family or get back to your job or get back to your house or your life. It was terrible. And there's a real friction, obviously, among the Romans, who were the occupying army, and the people who had to endure that kind of loss of freedom. And so Jesus spoke into that and said, in my kingdom, it's a different way. In my kingdom, you're going to handle that differently. And I think people were wondering, is he going to tell them to disobey or forget you, we're not doing it, we're going to stand up for our freedom? Because God gave us freedom. Jesus paid a high price for freedom. If it wasn't for freedom, Jesus wouldn't have had to go to the cross. So God values that. And Jesus speaks into this debate among the people and says, listen, here's how we're going to handle it in my church. In my church, he says, in my kingdom, go the extra mile. If he says go 1 mile, you're required by law to do that. You should go 2. In fact, today, anybody who says go the extra mile is quoting Jesus. They may not even realize they're quoting Jesus, but they are, because Jesus created that mindset 2,000 years ago. And I've been reminded of that this week because there's a lot of debate about government mandates. Rogers Anderson recently said if you're in Williamson County, you've got to have a mask on. They're having that same mandate in other places. And there's a lot of debate about masks, and we're not having that debate in this video. Are masks better or worse? Are masks good or bad? Is it okay for the government to do it or not do it? Do they have the legal authority? We can have all those debates as citizens. And as citizens, we should be nice, but have the debate. But as Christians, Jesus said, if the government says to do it, you do it, unless it goes against what he says. And so you should not just do it, you should go the extra mile. And I think we should do that in these days with these things of the masks. You know what? How does the church go the extra mile with this mandate? I think Christians should lead the way. I think we should be kind the extra mile. We should be polite and respectful the extra mile. And when it comes to finding ways to keep people safe and obeying as the mayor gives mandates, I think we should go the extra mile. So what do we need to do as a church? I really appreciate Mayor Anderson protecting religious liberty. He made a specific bullet point and said churches are not required to follow this. So legally, he gives us lots of bandwidth, and I really appreciate him protecting the separation of church and state. That separation was always designed not to protect the state from the church. It was always designed to protect the church from the state. And he's protecting that, and I appreciate that. And we want to be respectful. But even in that same paragraph, he said, but we strongly urge churches to do this. What's it like to go the extra mile for us as a church? The spirit of the mandate clearly calls for us to do that. And we don't feel like we can do that in a unified way any better than for the next couple of weeks during this 4-week mandate. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to return back to just going to services online. So at 9:35, we'll have our online service, just as we have. Morning Mug will be right before that at 9:20. And we're going to suspend the in-person gatherings in this building on Sunday morning for the next couple of weeks. Now, in their place, we're going to be looking for ways to aggressively go and have some smaller in-person gatherings. We recently announced the praise, prayer, and passage events. That was before the mandate was even in a thing, so we weren't doing that in response, but we're hoping that'll even be more widely participated. Go to wellspringchristian.org/sign-up. And click on that link to sign up. We had 2 locations. We're adding a 3rd location right now, in fact, in response to this. We're going to be looking for other ways to bring people together in smaller settings, outdoors, where we can be distanced and things. I really appreciate an interview I saw with Mayor Anderson where he said he was doing it because he wanted to keep businesses open, and he was doing it because at the end of this 4 weeks, schools are set to open. And he said we need to throw everything we can at it to lower this down so that schools can open up, because everybody's life needs that to happen. And we as a church, our elders and our pastoral staff, we all got together and we were talking. We said, how do we do that as a church? Some churches haven't been able to meet, some churches haven't been able to stream. We've had so many talented folks help us pull that together, so we feel like we can do this without impeding on our mission of helping people follow Jesus, and so that's what we're going to do. Now let me be clear. Some of you may be asking this, and so let's go ahead and announce this now. I firmly believe that in my lifetime, there will be a moment where I've got to decide, am I going to do as Peter said, am I going to follow men rather than God? Daniel was told to quit praying or face the lions. And he says, you might as well go ahead and throw me in, because I'm not stopping. And I'm firmly convinced that there will be a time in my lifetime where I've got to make the decision to follow God and to pay a price for it. And I'm willing to pay a price for it. But that's not this time. And we'll have more credibility when we get to those times if we handle these times with the utmost respect and courtesy and kindness. And so I'm calling you, the church, to do that as well. When you go out and about, in your interactions online, as you're talking to people, be respectful, take the lead. And in a few weeks, we're going to get through this. In a few weeks, we're going to look back this in the rearview mirror and be glad we did everything we can to keep businesses open, to keep people safe, to get schools back re-engaged. And we really believe this will help. So praying for you. Let me know how we can help. We want to be in your life even more now than we were before. Let us know how to help, and we'll talk to you soon.